Hi, I'm Ben Moskal, and I'm going to be presenting my project for this semester. The project proposal is to purchase and assemble components to build a personal computer. Minimum requirements for this are a 3.4 gigahertz dual-core processor, 8 gigs of RAM, a 4 gigabyte video card, a 1 terabyte hard drive, 450 watt power supply, and Windows 10. The project has a timeline of 3 weeks, the shipping time for the components being the main limiting factor to the speed of the project. This is the list of tasks I came up with for the project. As you can see, it's broken down into 4 main sections, which is number 1, shopping for the components, receiving the components and verifying that they are correct, assembling the PC, and then preparing it for use by installing the operating system, installing any software I want, and configuring it to operate the way that I want it. The network diagram is going to help to show the relationship between these tasks, and the team planner is going to help show the activity of each person as they are working on all these tasks. As you can see over on the right, all of the tasks have been assigned to either me or Aaron, who will be helping me with this project. And then you can also see resources, which would be the components, material resources that are also creating costs to this project, and they are occurring at the time of purchase. Here we have the Gantt chart, which shows in a very similar way all of those tasks that I had laid out, and as well as their start and finish times and the resources that are assigned to each of them. And then over here on the right we have a Gantt chart that shows kind of the relationship between all the tasks and the flow of them throughout the project. But for this, I found that the network diagram was a much better way to view that. So here we have the network diagram, which better illustrates the flow of the work on the project. We start by defining the parameters for the components so that everybody on the team knows what they're shopping for, and then the shopping duties are split between me and Aaron. We're each shopping for certain items, and once we're both completed, we're just waiting for the items to ship, unpackaging them, and then while I'm verifying that they're correct, Aaron is filing all the documentation away for me. And then I am assembling the system myself, and we can see how these tasks are occurring one after another here. And once that's done, we move into getting it ready for use. We see once I install Windows, I let Aaron make sure that it's working properly and do the software updates. Once he's done with that, I customize it by configuring it the way I want it and installing any other software that I want. And then we are at completion of the project. Here we have the team planner, which is a little bit tough to see because of the short time span in which all of my tasks are scheduled. Really can't zoom in any further, but you can see there's tasks one after another. And if we hover over them, we can see what they are. Both myself and Aaron. It's a good way to visualize the scheduling of the tasks. And then we have a long gap while we're waiting for everything to ship. And about a week or so later, everything comes in, and then we're working on all of the subsequent tasks, verifying what we got and doing the installation and setup. Again, this is over a short time, so it's a little tough to see, but if we hover over, we can see what each of them is in detail. On a larger scale, this would be a little bit more useful because it would be spread over a different amount of time possibly with more people working on it. So it would really help to see who's doing what when, how tasks are coming in one after another, what tasks are happening at the same time, that sort of thing. And then here we have a quick chart for the resources that are going to be used in the project. There's 2 people, me and Aaron, and I'm paying myself $15 an hour for this, and I'm paying him $12 as my assistant. And then we have several materials, which would be all the different components, and these are estimates of prices that I found for components that meet the requirements. And those will all be occurring, those costs will be occurring as those components are purchased during that first shopping phase of the project. Here we have an overview of the resources. You can see the hours that are spent by both me and Aaron. I spent a little more time on the project than Aaron, but I marked all of the tasks complete, which is why you can see over on the right where it says work status, it says 100%, and down on the bottom it also says that the remaining work is 0 hours. Here we can see that there are no over-allocated resources. This is because no one person is scheduled to do 2 tasks at the same time, which is what we want. At the beginning, when I first set up the project, I did have over-allocated resources. I had myself doing multiple tasks at the same time, but I was able to remedy that by improving the relationship between tasks so that it would schedule them one after another instead of at the same time. So now we don't see any over-allocated resources on here, and that is wonderful. Here we have an overview of the costs of the resources. We see me and Aaron at our hourly rates. I'm costing $142.50 and he is costing $63. And then we can see over on the right how that is distributed, the blue being the work that is done by the 2 of us at $205.50, and then $933.53 for materials, which is all of the components that I purchased. So this turned out to be a pretty expensive computer, but that is a good way to just show that relationship there. And then here we see how the costs are broken down per task. Because all of the components were purchased at the beginning phase during the shopping, that is when those costs happen. So we can see the shopping phase has the majority of the cost on it, whereas the other phases have substantially less. But that is because during those times the only cost that was occurring was the work that we were actually doing. So what did I learn from this project? I learned how important it is to plan and schedule carefully and monitor your resource allocation. If you just plan a bunch of tasks and stick them together, chances are that they're going to run into each other and somebody is going to be expected to be in 2 places at one time. That's what happened to me. That's what I had to fix. And it just took a lot of paying attention and careful thought to make sure that I knew what task came before or after other tasks, and I knew who was working on each task in order to allow them to have the proper relationships between each other and schedule the resources appropriately. And that involves respecting those relationships between those tasks. Just knowing that I can't complete one thing before I complete another. I also can't complete one thing at the same time as another. Another thing to remember, not just from this project, but from any project, is to adapt and change as we complete the tasks for any given project. Certain things may not come out the way we want them, whether that be the way something performs, the way something looks, or how much something costs, or the availability of a resource. And it is up to the project manager to figure out how to adapt to that to keep the project on track, because we shouldn't be letting one hiccup derail an entire project, or we're never going to be successful. It's also important to remember that people on the project are your most important resource. Materials cost what they cost, but people can make or break the success of a project. You have to build the right team. You have to understand the skills that are needed for the project and the skills that people have, so you can build the right team with the right set of skills. But it's also important to remember those people's attitudes, how they interact with each other, how they're going to respond to your leadership, so that you can put people where they need to be in order to be the most successful. You need to give them strong leadership because they need to be kept on task sometimes, and they also need to know who they can go to help make decisions. As I mentioned earlier, needing to adapt and change, they're looking for strong leadership to help them adapt and change. And as a project manager, that has to be you. And then that includes communicating continuously with them, communicating with them on anything that is changing, communicating with them on anything that they are not doing to your expectations or to the expectations of the stakeholders of the project, so that we can get things back on track. But also communicating with them on their successes, so that they know they're on the right track and they will stay happy, productive workers for you as well. And then lastly, you just need to remember to learn from everything that you do while working on a project. Because if you're a project manager on one project, you're probably going to have more projects, or the organization is going to have more projects. So it's remembering what happened, the successes, the failures that you had, so that you can be better every time. You know what works, you know what doesn't work, and document that. Because maybe it won't be the same team of people working on the next project, but they'll want to be able to utilize what you learned so the organization can learn as a whole. Without good leadership, good communication, and the ability to learn, no project manager is going to be successful. Thank you.